Star Wars, Young Jedi Knights, The Lost Ones, Chapter 3. As the five companions left the hawk bed nests behind, Jaina stuck close to Zeke. She watched the dark-haired boy move instinctively, hurrying through the maze of upper and lower walkways and cross-connecting bridges as he made a beeline back to his living quarters. The green-eyed boy beamed with self-congratulatory pride at the precious egg he held, as if it were a trophy he had hoped to win for a long time. "Peckham's going to be so pleased," Zeke crowed, looking from Jaina to Jason. "He'll know just what to do with it. He's got a line on everyone who's looking for anything." He glanced sidelong at Jason again. "Don't worry about it. We'll find a good home for this baby, just like you promised, Jason. It shouldn't be too hard for a professional zoologist to incubate his egg till it hatches." 10 o'clock cleared her throat and said ominously, "If we bring the egg back intact." Jaina suddenly noticed they had returned to the abandoned levels emblazoned with the gang graffiti. The Lost Ones. The sharp corners of the cross in a triangle symbol seemed brighter now, as if freshly painted. Jaina wondered if the gang members could have marked their territory afresh in the short time since the young Jedi Knights had passed through. If the gang members kept a careful eye out for everything, they might have spotted the five companions already. Maybe they were watching from hidden, shadowy corners right now. Tenelkas tensed and pulled out a small throwing knife, looking from side to side. She seemed alert, ready to spring at the first sign of danger. But Jaina didn't feel safe. With her Jedi senses, she felt a tingle down her spine. If the Lost Ones are so tough and powerful, how come we've never heard of them before? Jason looked around nervously at the creaking, mossy buildings. "Because you never come down here," Zeke answered. "Whenever we get together, you either have me come up to the Imperial Palace, or we meet in the safe upper levels. I bet your parents would blow their thrusters if they knew where we were right now." "We can take care of ourselves," Tenelkas said defensively, flashing her tiny dagger. "Dear me, I wouldn't be so certain of that if I were you," the MTD replied from below his waist. The young Wookiee groaned. Zeke smiled thinly. "Down here, you can see how I live every day. I don't have anyone to wash my hands for me or cook my meals, you know. I don't have the luxury of worrying about how to amuse myself. Every day is a search. I'm just lucky to have a special knack for finding things." Jaina was surprised to hear a hint of resentment behind her friend's words. "Zeke, if you needed anything, you should have just asked. We could have found you new quarters, given you credits to spend." "Who said I wanted that?" he responded with clenched teeth. "I don't need to clarify. I've got my freedom here. I can do whatever I want. Besides, it's more satisfying to live by my own wits than to be pampered and coddled all the time." The MTD piped up. "Well, really, Master Zeke, it might interest you to learn that not everyone's minds are being pampered and coddled." Jaina ignored the translating droid and considered if Zeke really meant what he said. "Nothing personal," Zeke said with a shrug. He looked up at the cross and triangle symbol. "Being a gang member doesn't impress me either. Their leader, Norris, who's our age, is a big bully who likes to throw his weight around. I can run my way through the lower levels better than any of the Lost Ones, so he's been after me for a long time. He'd love me to have me as his right-hand man, but I'm too independent for that. I work for myself." They stood at the entrance of the sheer-walled building near one end of the dilapidated covered walkway that extended to the adjacent skywalker. More threatening gang symbols marked the inside walls. Half the windows were broken, and confined breezes whispered through the walkway, like voices warning them to go back. Zeke looked behind him. "This building we're in is the headquarters of the Lost One. We're taking a pretty big risk being here." His emerald eyes sparkled. "Kind of exciting, isn't it?" The building was large and dark, filled with cavernous spaces of empty meeting chambers, offices, and abandoned supply rooms. Jaina wondered if any record or blueprint of this ancient building still existed in the vast computer archives of the Imperial Information Center. "I don't think you have to worry about Norris, though," Zeke said, raising his voice. "He talks big, but his ambitions are definitely low. He has no interest in becoming anything more than the biggest bully in a low-down section of a single building of an average planet in a big galaxy." Zeke's voice sounded taunting. "He'll never go anywhere because his dreams are so small." Just then, a ceiling panel smashed down from above them. and a dozen wiry young men and women dropped to the floor. They looked scruffy and dirty with hard, lean faces. Each held an interesting, cobbled-together weapon scavenged from sharp pieces of scrap. "You trying to annoy me, trash collector?" the biggest burly young man said. His face was broad and dark, his eyes close-set, his teeth crooked as he ground his jaws together and spread his lips in a sneer. "It's not polite to eavesdrop, Nori," Zeke said. But then the gang leader's eyes fixed on the precious hawkbat egg that Zeke crowded close to his chest. "What's the little trash collector found?" Nori said. "Hey, everybody! Looks like we're gonna have fresh eggs for the morning meal." Labaka growled loudly, enough to startle the lost ones, burying his long, Wookiee fangs. Zeke looked suddenly nervous, as if the valuable hawkbat egg made him vulnerable in new ways. "What do you want the egg for?" Jason said. "He only wants it because I want it," Zeke said. "He'll probably smash it, not knowing what it's worth." Tenel Ka now held the throwing dagger at the ready in each hand. The lost ones looked at her and Loey, and then at the three seeming easier targets of Zeke and the twins. "In a case like this," Zeke said, moving slowly, extending the molted egg gradually, as if reluctant to surrender to the brawny member, "the most sensible idea is to run!" He whirled and dashed into a rickety walkway. The vibration of his running knocked loose a broken wall plate, which dropped suddenly into the murky depths below. The young Jedi Knights reacted quickly and scrambled after their friend to the covered bridge. The gang members howled and gave pursuit, clattering their crude weapons against the walls. Out in the middle of the dilapidated walkway, Zeke suddenly pulled to a stop as a gang member, an angry young woman who looked even tougher than Tenel Ka, appeared from the opposite building and stood ominously at the far entrance. "We're trapped," Jaina said with a hard gulp. This did not seem like a good place for a standoff. Zeke looked back and forth, and as if seeking inspiration in the middle of the swaying bridge, the cold wind sighed through the broken windows and gaps in the flooring. "Just to be fair," he said, crossing his arms with a feigned good humor, "I'll let you guys solve this one. Got any ideas?" Jaina tried to think of something she could do with what Uncle Luke had taught them at the Jedi Academy. With uninterrupted concentration, she could manipulate objects with the Force, but she couldn't think of any way of fledgling powers could help them escape. Nori strode forward, his chest puffed with confidence. "Now give me that egg, trash collector, and maybe we won't throw you over the edge." Just then a screeching sound came from above. A blood-curdling animal shriek. A predator's heavy shadow swept like a dark blanket over the cracked windows of the walkway. With another loud scream, the mother hawkbat struck the side windows, smashing against the wire mesh that barely held the frames in place. She spat and hissed, her sharp beak ripping at the wires, her forked tongue thrashing as she dug her claws in, trying to get at Nori. The gang leader staggered backward with a surprised yelp. Zeke protected the egg again, holding it to his chest. At the same time, Loey, focusing on lone women guarding the upside of the walkway, let out a ferocious roar and charged forward. "Oh my!" Anthony squeaked. "Would anyone object if I switch off my optical sensors again so I don't have to watch?" Distracted by the attacking hawkbat and startled by the snarling battering ram of Wookiee fur, the gang member backed off and leaped aside. "Well, what are we waiting for?" Jaina cried. Zeke ducked low to protect the hawkbat egg as he ran after her. Jason followed them, while Tenel Ka turned at once to threaten the lost one with her throwing daggers before bringing up the rear, sprinting along with her muscular legs. Seeing them escape, the mother hawkback shrieked one more time and flew off as if satisfied. Zeke kept running while Norris yelled after them, "We'll catch you next time, trash collector! Do you hear me?" He shouted, "You'll join our gang, one way or another!" Zeke didn't respond as he led the young Jedi Knights through a maze of stairwells, slides, and lifts in the lower levels, climbing to rickety catwalks, and then higher to lighted levels. He was panting, but his flushed face wore a grin of exhilaration. Triumphant, Zeke cradled the hawkbat egg close to his body. "I thought you said hawkbats have had short memories," he gasped. Jason shrugged and looked sheepish. "What? Aren't you glad I was wrong?" "Yes," Jason said, "we all are." "Come on," Zeke said. "Let's get this egg back home."